this, have you spoken to President Biden?
Yes.
And how was your conversation with him? What did he say to you?
Why would I tell you that? Because then the next time I talk to the president, he would not tell me what he thinks. So we keep those conversations confidential.
Well, obviously, a lot of these conversations, though, that he has been having, Senator Chris Coons said, he was asking, who do I need to talk to? Who is concerned on the Hill? You obviously are an independent, but you caucus with Democrats. What are you hearing from your fellow Democratic senators tonight?
Well, what I'm hearing from the people of this country, and I get around the country a lot, is that they want politicians to stand up for a working class and take on powerful special interests who are in many ways running our country. I find it interesting. There have been, I think, 5 or 6 articles in the New York Times talking about what the donor class, right? This is what the donors are thinking. Really? The last I heard, American democracy was supposed to be about what ordinary people think, not just wealthy people. So I think the crisis that we're facing right now is that we need a Democratic Party to make it clear they're going to stand up for the working class of this country. They're going to tackle big money interest, and they are going to pass legislation which improves lives for all people, not just the few.
Yeah, and I see what you're saying about the donors. I think the reason people focus on them is because they need money. I mean, Trump is a fundraising machine. Democrats,
but what does
obviously.
that tell you? I mean, it talks about the corruption of the American political system.
Sure, and
that billionaires can spend as much money as they want electing or defeating candidates. That's a real problem.
And that's a larger conversation. But I talked to sources over the last few days who they're getting a lot of phone calls from donors. But on President Biden himself, without telling me the specifics of your conversation, I understand that. Were you reassured by what he said to you in that conversation?
This is what I think, Caitlin. I think that President Biden has stood up for the working class of this country probably more strongly than any president in modern history. I think he had a terrible debate. Nobody disagrees with that. I think he's been doing better since that debate. I think he's got to get out there. He's got to talk to people. He has a press conference on Thursday. People will see how he does. In my opinion, I think that he has the ability to be an excellent president. But what we need right now in that campaign is an agenda that speaks to the next 4 years. People are hurting. You can't just say, hey, this is what I did the last 3.5 years. 25% of elderly people in this country are living on $15,000 or less. What are we going to do to improve life for the elderly? Well, I think we got to expand Social Security benefits. You have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. We have to make that child tax credit permanent. And by the way, on all of these issues, standing up for the working class, the Republicans are on the other side. They're more interested not only in undermining American democracy, denying women the right to control their own bodies, they really are going to come out time and time again on the side of the rich.
Well, and it sounds like you may not be seeing enough of that from the Biden campaign tonight. But on these conversations on the Hill right now, Senator Mark Warner put out a statement earlier saying that it is time for conversations about the strongest path forward. How do you convince the Democrats you caucus with that President Biden is the strongest?
It's not my job to convince the Democrats I caucus with. The question right now is the president has got to get out and convince the American people. And you do that by talking about a very good record, but more importantly, saying, you know what, we got a housing crisis in America. My city, cost of housing is outrageous. Republicans have nothing to say about that. We have got to build millions of units of low-income and affordable housing, all right? Elderly people can't afford dental, hearing, or vision care. But the president has got to say, we're going to expand Medicare to cover those needs. So what you've got to do right now to win the support of working families who will determine the outcome of this election, stand by them, come up with an agenda, get it done.
And have you heard enough of those pressing issues from the president?
No.
Is he making that case?
No. I think, what they have talked about with some pride is their accomplishments in lowering the cost of prescription drugs. Absolutely right. We put more money into infrastructure at any time in the history of this country, rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. Very good. More money into transforming our energy system. You got Donald Trump. You talk about who's fit for office. Donald Trump, believe it or not, thinks that climate change is a hoax created by the Chinese. That is an insane statement and a dangerous statement. So we talk about fitness for office. Take a look at that. But bottom line is, we've accomplished a lot under Biden. We need to aggressively go forward because so many of our people are hurting. 60% living paycheck to paycheck. We got to speak to their needs.
But there are a lot of voters who are concerned about President Biden's age and what he displayed on that stage a few Thursdays ago in Atlanta. 50 million people were watching that. So you're talking about the issues, but what about the age aspect of this conversation? And not just age, but his ability to do
It's
his
an
job.
issue. But you know what else people are worried about? Yeah, they're worried about his age. They're worried about his mental acuity. But you know what else they're worried about? They're going to are they able to afford to feed their families, to pay the rent?
But
Are
they
they
trust
having
Trump.
a living wage?
They
now,
trust
what
Trump
media
on the
does,
economy
let me
more in
just
the
say
polls.
this. What media does, to a large degree, is make politics into a beauty contest, into a Grammy award-winning contest. You are voting for somebody on policy. Who is going to improve your life? Do you want somebody who thinks that climate change is a hoax, who takes away women's right to control their own bodies, who has appointed extremely anti-union leaders to his administration, which is what Trump did?
But what about a poll? The latest Gallup poll shows that voters, when it's asked, who do you agree with on the issues that matter the most to you, Donald Trump's almost at 50%, President Biden's at 37%. So you're arguing, who do you trust more on the issues? But what if they
let me
don't
give you an example.
see that?
An example. Should we cut Social Security or expand Social Security benefits by lifting the cap on taxable income so the wealthy start paying their fair share of taxes? Do a poll on that. I will bet you 85, 90% of the people think we should lift the cap, have wealthy people pay their fair share so we can expand benefits and extend the life of Social Security. There are polls about expanding Medicare to cover dental, hearing, and vision. 90% of the people support it. Raise the federal minimum wage. People support that. So I trust that poll, but the problem is the president has not gotten out and contrasted his point of view representing working people with the Republicans.
And you're talking about the issues, which obviously are of grave concern to voters.
Some concern, I think.
We look
Yeah,
at democracy, we look at this.
Yeah.
But if you can't get your guy reelected, if President Biden isn't reelected, and this is what's at stake, that's the concern here. And so when you see the White House at the briefing today, or President Biden repeatedly refusing to undergo a cognitive exam and to release the results of that,
You know what
do you think it'd be better if he would?
What I think is best is for him to get out, to talk to people, to do town meetings, to do press conferences, and let the people decide. That's how I think you determine cognitive ability.
But so far, voters have shown concerns about his age.
Well, I saw that debate. And
what does he need to do specifically? What do you think would help? You're not saying he needs to do a test. You're saying he needs to get out there. What does that look like? A press conference, interviews?
You keep talking about his cognitive issues, and they're real and legitimate. I'm suggesting.
I'm talking about voters' concerns, not my
and those
concerns.
Yes, and you're right. And I think what he has got to do is get out there, interact with people, turn off the teleprompter, and people can make a judgment for themselves how well he is doing. But what I would also say that what we are not talking about, and this I really fault media for, this is not who is the best entertainer. The truth is Trump had a good TV show. He was a very good entertainer. But do people really think and want to vote for somebody who thinks the climate change is a hoax, who wants to deny women the right to control their own bodies? I don't think so. So what we have got to do is inject policy, the contrast between what Biden stands for and what Trump stands for. And then if you do that, I think Biden's going to do just fine.
And with all due respect, obviously, President Biden and Donald Trump had 90 minutes side by side to draw those contrasts themselves. President Biden had that opportunity. But you said yesterday to Robert Costa of CBS that President Biden certainly can beat Donald Trump. Do you think he is the best Democrat to beat Donald Trump?
I think he's the president of the United States. He is at this moment the Democratic nominee. And I would repeat, absolutely, if he runs on a platform that stands for the needs of the working families, demands that the billionaire class start paying their fair share of taxes, and respects the needs of workers, he will win the election.
You said he is at this moment the Democratic nominee. If he decides to drop
You're
out
speculating.
of the race,
I'm not into speculation. He is right now.
it's a real conversation, though.
Well,
that
it's
even
a real
look, the
that's
lawmakers
what I
on
know. I
Capitol
watch
Hill are
CNN. That's all
having.
they talk about 24 hours a day. But what I'm suggesting is that what we should be talking about is which candidate is best able to represent the needs of the vast majority of our people. Maybe, just maybe, we might want to talk about that.
And you do believe that that is President Biden?
Right now, President Biden is the Democratic nominee. Until I hear differently, I will support him. And I do believe that if he makes it clear that he is prepared to stand up for working people, take on powerful special interests, yeah, he will win the election.
And if he does not run, would you support the vice president if he gets behind her?
Right now, Biden is the Democratic nominee, period.